Welcome, everyone. My name is Rory, and this is Rachel from the marketing team here at Barn to Door. And today we're going to be talking about 5 steps to write an email newsletter to engage customers and grow your farm sales. Now, Rachel, you do all the email marketing here for us at Barn to Door. So we got the real master here with us today. What are some of the things we're going to be talking about?
Yeah, well, email is truly the best way to engage customers. I mean, people visit their inbox every single day, so it's truly the best form, like I said, to engage customers, build your brand, and just reach customers directly in a place that they're every day.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Well, let's jump right into it. So first up, number 1 is that subject line. And that first impression is so important, kind of gets buyers to open that email initially, and it needs to be compelling. So, Rachel, what would be kind of your tips and some of those maybe 3 things that are super important to keep in mind when writing your subject line?
Yeah, I would say finding the balance between generating interest but not coming off as spam is super important. So the first step is to be concise. So we're looking at less than 50 characters or less in your subject line. And that's a good way to make sure that your entire message is getting across the screen. So when someone pulls up their email either on a laptop or on a cell phone, they will see your entire message within that subject line. The next point is that it should be enticing. And so a good rule of thumb that I like to do for our emails, and this is actually pretty standard, like regardless of industry, is to focus on like 3 buckets to choose from to write your subject line. So it's asking a question, using humor, or creating urgency. And these 3 are really good ways you can rotate them so you can mix it up whenever you're sending your emails. And it's also just a great kind of trick or a hack, I like to say, to kind of spur those opens. And then the last topic here is to make sure it's relevant. I mean, of course, you want your subject line to speak to the topic of the email. That's very important, but also keep it timely to the season or current events. Keeping it relevant will pique more interest and hopefully up those open rates too.
Definitely. Well, next up, I know we have some examples, some really great examples that you pulled for us.
Yes.
So this first one from Groupon, just, hey, were you going to delete this? I love this one because it's like most often when you're getting these emails from companies or different promotions and things like that, your first instinct is to delete them. So definitely something that kind of catches you off guard. And like you said, with a question too.
Exactly. That's actually one that popped up into my inbox. And whenever I see Groupon, I'm not going to lie, I usually hit the delete button. But this made me pause, and which is exactly what they wanted, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to open it. I'm going to see what it was. And they had all these promotions, and I ended up deleting it later. But hey, they got my open rate. So.
And then this next one that we have here from a farmer using Barn to Door, this week only with the single exclamation point, a really great kind of urgency and promotional type of subject line. I really like this one too. It kind of builds on that FOMO, that fear of missing out, to make sure people realize that there's a time period on this and you don't want to miss it.
Exactly. I mean, urgency is a very effective way to get buyers to take an action. So you're creating that window of opportunity, you're spurring that FOMO, like you mentioned, Rory, and it's a really good practice to up those open rates too.
Humor and fun made you look. Definitely an attention grabber, especially with that emoji in there, is really great. Another one from a farmer using Barn to Door.
Yeah, I mean, again, if you are just naturally funny or if you have, a bunch of puns in your repertoire, it's really great just to throw those on there. Again, that's something that will stand out in your customer's inbox and will prompt people to want to, open up your email and see what you sent them.
Great. Well, so those are some of the great things to do, some strategies that do work. Let's maybe talk about now some of the mistakes that people can tend to make. All caps.
All caps. Okay, all caps is a big one. I think some people think like, oh, all caps, like this is really going to make my email stand out. Yes, that's true, but that's what a lot of, spam emails look like too. And so people could mistake your email if you use all caps to just be a spam email, and that's the last thing you want to happen.
Definitely. I feel like whenever I'm writing an email, if I am putting something important in it, my instinct is, oh, I should make this all caps. But yeah, when you just like you said, it starts to blend in with all the other useless emails that people are getting in their inboxes all the time. And on a very similar note, overusing exclamation points too.
Yes. I mean, it's kind of funny, but when I was really looking into this, because I'm an enthusiastic person, I like exclamation points, but it really does look disruptive in an inbox. I mean, again, when you're scrolling on your phone, which is how most people open their emails, or if, you're on your laptop or desktop computer, to see a bunch of exclamation points, again, it's just a red flag for spam.
Mm-hmm. And then the last one, don't stray too far away from the email topic. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so a subject line is supposed to prompt people to want to learn more. So if you have a subject line that maybe you're thinking it's the craftiest subject line you've ever made, or it's, related to something that's not inclusive of what is in your email, that can frustrate people, and it can actually deter people from wanting to open future emails because they just lost trust in your brand. So keeping it relevant, keeping, your subject line, a little snippet, a little message of what is actually to come in your email is really important.
Definitely. I think all of these are really common mistakes. And obviously, worst case scenario is somebody unsubscribing from your email list. And these are kind of some of the things that can tend to lead to that. And obviously, if they unsubscribe, then you have no contact with them at all. So maybe they're not opening every email, but at least that you don't want somebody to think, oh, this is worth nothing to me, or these people are annoying me or lying to me. So you don't want them to leave. So making sure that all that content is relevant and kind of what they know they're getting into. Awesome. So let's dive into the next tip. And we're going to talk about now that preview text. So this is that text that you're kind of able to see before you even actually open the email, often right underneath that subject line. And what is kind of the use of that text, Rachel? And how can farmers be sure that they're making the most of that space and kind of leading readers into their email with that?
Yeah, so preview text is just another way to get people to open your email. So it's an extension of your subject line. It's another way for people to take a peek into what's included in your email. And if you're using an email marketing tool, Barn to Door, we have the integration with MailChimp. Constant Contact is another one that a lot of people use and is very popular. But when you're using one of those email marketing tools, it's essential that you can actually leverage the preview text. So you can set your own preview text as you would your subject line, for example. However, if you don't use an email marketing tool, usually the preview text will be set for you, pulling typically the first couple sentences of the body of your email itself. So a really good rule of thumb is to keep it short and to keep it sweet, like your subject line, and also to build off your subject line too. So further providing information into your newsletter. And if you're really struggling to write preview text, or if you're in a hurry, you can easily take the first couple sentences from the body of your email and throw it in there. It's not the end of the world, but if you can write something different, it'll be better.
Definitely. So for an example of preview text, we're actually going to be looking at this email example from Grass-Fed Cattle Co., Valerie Lumen. They raise pastured poultry and grass-fed beef. And so this is one of her email newsletters. And starting out, we see here her preview text. What looks good about this specific example here, Rachel?
Yeah, well, the first thing that pops out to me is just her subject line going back. So bird is the word. Yeah. I love that. It's a little punny. It's, it's short, it's sweet. She has the drumstick emoji, so it's very playful. And then you see her preview text right beneath it. So it's pasture-raised chickens are finally listed on our website. And so this is a perfect example of keeping your subject line short and sweet, and then using your preview text to build off of the subject line and also provide that hint into what the email is going to feature.
Awesome. And we're going to dive even more into this specific email from Valerie in a little bit, but kind of moving forward to tip number 3 is the content of the email. And I know, Rachel, this is where you live. This is your bread and butter, is the written content within an email. Why is that so important? And what are some tips that farmers can use to be successful with that?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind when you're featuring, you're writing your email content. You're not writing a letter, you're not writing a book, you're not writing a blog. Just keeping it short and sweet is so important. People are so busy, and when you get them to open your email in the first place, the last thing you want to do is to have multiple pages of an email. No one's going to read that. So a rule of thumb I like to share is to leverage the 3 E's that we're constantly referring back to. So education, entertainment, and e-commerce. And so you can entertain buyers with a story about your farm. You can share a recipe. Maybe that's something that's passed down in your family with customers. In terms of education, you can share about maybe a new product, some of your farm practices. Maybe you got a new certification recently, and that's really important to your business, and you want to share that with customers. And then with e-commerce, it's of course promoting your farm store, sharing maybe subscriptions are live or you're accepting pre-orders. So this is a really great way to organize your content itself within the email. Another good rule of thumb is when you're picking your topic, whether it's education or entertainment or e-commerce, it's really good to only write like 3 to 4 sentences within that specific area. Again, if it's any longer, no one's going to take the time to read it.
Yeah.
And then leveraging just a clean layout of eye-catching photos and white space, it will urge more clicks, and people tend to respond more to things that are visually appealing as well. So not only is it just the words that you write, but also the photos that come into it are important too. Do you know what the 80-20 rule is?
I was going to ask you, what is the 80-20 rule?
So again, this is a great way to organize how much you're featuring of what.
Okay.
So 80% of your content should be educational and entertaining.
Okay.
And then 20% should be promotional or related to that third E, which is e-commerce. This is a great way to break up your content, and then also you're not coming across as too salesy. You're not just trying to promote your farm. You actually want to build rapport with your customers by educating them and entertaining them with other things to share.
I love that, actually, because I think especially when people are buying from local farms, they've come to you because they don't want to be buying from another big company or another grocery store that already sends them really spammy emails all the time.
Yeah.
And so being able to actually kind of give them updates on the farm or provide some new products and what's going on at the farm is a really cool way to do that. And so kind of sticking to that 80-20 rules is a great guide for that.
Exactly. And you really, I mean, before you ask for the sale is what, people say, you want to build rapport and build a relationship.
Well, going back again to Valerie's email, looking here at Grass-Fed Cattle Co., we're kind of looking here at the meat and potatoes of her newsletter, and that is the written content. So what stands out to you about this, and what do you really like about it?
I mean, the first thing you see here, a beautiful photo of chicken. Like, that's number one. And, that directly corresponds to her subject line and her preview text. So it should be no surprise when you open this email, that's what you see. And then you see her header, order your pastured chicken. It really prompts readers to learn more. So you see, finally, our pastured chicken is listed on our website, and she goes in to share more about it. So that's more of the educational piece, tying in a little bit of promotion, which is a great way to do it too. You can also notice, just the clean layout of what as well. So her sentence structure, it's very short and concise. It's very consumable. She throws in a quote from APA, the American Pastured Poultry Producers Association, and it's very easy to consume.
Definitely. And I think talking with farmers in our Connect program, I think sometimes the starting up a weekly newsletter or a monthly newsletter can be a little intimidating. But when you really look at this, if you got this email in your inbox, there's a good amount of content there. If you put in a photo, maybe a header, a title, this I think total is about 4 or 5 sentences. But the way Valerie kind of breaks that up and makes it look like maybe a little more content, and then you throw in a promo, maybe a couple more pictures or a few new products, you've got a really hefty email there that only required 4 to 5 sentences of actual writing, and the rest can be other things that you toss in there to kind of beef it up.
Exactly. That's a great point.
So diving in next to our tip number 4 is offering clear call to actions. And I guess maybe to start off, Rachel, what kind of is a call to action, and how should farmers be implementing those in their email marketing?
Yes, call to actions are super important. So it's usually a button or a link that will prompt email subscribers to take your desired action that you want them to take. So if you think back, Rory, about when you receive promotional emails, I'm sure you've probably clicked the link that says shop now or save 10%. We all do it. And so this is a great way to incorporate, again, going back to Valerie's email, she has her chickens, and you want to prompt them to visit your store store. So you can give them that action to make it. A good rule of thumb about CTAs is just to make them very simple. You want it to be actionable language. And you also need to remember that because that the text will be on kind of like a button format, and we'll see that in a second from Valerie's email, you want it to be less than like 5 words, I would say. Okay. Keeping it short and concise and actionable and relevant is important. You want people to know that when they click on the link, they'll know exactly where they will be brought.
Yeah, definitely. These are great examples here to learn more, shop now. I think also by adding now to that one, you're kind of, again, playing on that urgency. Like, get there, go get it before it's gone. Definitely.
Exactly.
So going back to Valerie's email, we have some really clear call to actions here. Do you want to kind of break those down for us?
So as you can see at the top here, we have shop all pastured chicken. And so like I just said, it's very short, it's actionable. And I know that when I click that link, I'm going to be brought to Valerie's store. Yeah. And so that's just super important to be able to make it clear and actionable. The next one, you kind of go into, news from Grass-Fed Cattle Co. And here Valerie actually talks about more of their processes, their non-GMO corn and soy fed, etc. So playing into that educational piece, which is great to see. And then sharing that if people want to learn more, they can check out her chicken farming blog update. So again, I know that when I click that button, I'm going to be brought to the blog about chicken farming from Grass-Fed Cattle Co.
And the other really great thing about this email, again, is just how clean and laid out the whole thing is. All the colors are on brand. And again, only 5 or 6 sentences there of written content that she's just laid out nicely to fit in the layout of that email. All right, going on to tip number 5. Timing. Timing is everything. What kind of insights can you give us on the timing of an email?
Me and my team, we like to constantly say to ourselves, sending emails at the right time with the right subject line and the right balance of content is just kind of the key to creating a winning email. It's all these components that need to come together to increase your open rates, drive click rates, and ultimately drive conversions to your farm store. So the main 3 things to do when determining the right time to send your email, the first is to track your trends. This is so important. So again, if you are a Barn Store customer and you have the MailChimp integration, MailChimp will actually kind of do the work for you, which I love. It will tell you when the best time to send an email is, depending on previous trends or just depending on the time of day or where your customers are located. If you don't have an email tool like MailChimp that you're currently using, you should keep tracking the trends. And so you can do this with a manual spreadsheet. If you list all the previous emails you've sent and the times you sent them at, track the open rates and the click rates, kind of cross compare and see, where were those big spikes, maybe where was it least successful, and then you can kind of play around and see where your sweet spot is. The next one I like to talk about is to think about your audience. This is really important and to take into consideration when you're determining what time or maybe what day to send your emails. I like to think of it in two parts. So if you're like the stay-at-home parent, you're probably checking your email around like mid-morning after you drop the kids off at school. Maybe you got some errands done as well. So if majority of your customers are that stay-at-home parent, maybe that 10, 11 time is a really good sweet spot. If majority of your customers are millennials or, people who work 5 days a week, I don't know about you, I check my emails first thing in the morning.
Yeah, I feel like it's first thing in the morning and before you go to bed.
Yes, exactly. And I also kind of have like a slump around like 3 o'clock, which is, I'm like, okay, I'll check some emails now, So those are some really good sweet spots as well. So taking your audience into consideration will help you determine when the right time is. Lastly, it's important to test and try new things. Yes, we're really big on testing and iterating things here at Barn to Door. And you're truly not going to know when the best time to send an email is if you don't test new things or try different things out. I want to call out this stat here. 22% of all emails are opened within the first hour of sending. That's a big deal.
Yeah, and I feel like I've totally seen that with emails that we send from Barn to Door. It's like you send something out and maybe you didn't have the timing right or something, and after you get an hour from it, it's like, if people aren't responding by now, they might not ever.
Yeah, exactly. So determining the right time is very important to increasing conversions, growing brand awareness, and just creating a successful email.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also the whole important part of that is people are getting bombarded by these emails from other companies a lot. Mm-hmm. So if you can send them less content but make it timed perfectly, that's really the silver bullet, I guess,
yes.
is to make sure that you're getting it right then when they're going to look at their phone anyways, and yours is showing up right on top.
Exactly.
Awesome. So let's look at some examples. So for most farmers, they might be kind of looking at this and say, okay, I have no clue when the best time to send an email would be. So what are some of those general insights and kind of advice you can give around when the best time to send an email is?
Yeah, that's a great call out. So this information has been taken from 2021, best performing emails. Mm-hmm. It's generalized across all industries. And so it's been found that in 2021, Tuesdays and Thursdays were the best days to send emails. Whereas that 10 a.m., 8 p.m., and 2 p.m. in that order are the best times to have your emails delivered to your contact list. Another thing I want to point out is if you have, the Barnstor and MailChimp integration set up, if you're able to send your emails to land in that contact's time zone, mm-hmm. if you're shipping across the country. But for optimal results, you really need to figure out what works best for your customers. So you can use this as a guide, as a starting point, mm-hmm. but know that the best time to send emails for your audience could probably look different than this.
Yeah, and I really like that too. Just use this as a starting point, test it out, and then kind of iterate from there. I love this quote that we have here. There's a direct correlation between sending out our weekly newsletter and people placing their orders. I would say about 80% of our sales occur within 6 hours of sending the Monday newsletter. Mm-hmm. That is awesome that one email can drive so many sales for this farmer. That's a super incredible stat to see. Obviously, the power and effect that one email can have on your sales mm-hmm. for the week is so great. I know that's from Liz Mason from Honeybee Hills. Especially her farm operates on a CSA model, mm-hmm. so being able to kind of give that regular update, as well as maybe people want to do some add-ons, and so they're clicking through that email to do that type of thing as well, is great to see. And obviously the consistency part there is huge too. Making sure that it's happening every Monday is a really big part of that success.
So now, Rory, I prepared a little bit of a case study for us to walk through on, just evidence of farm success with email marketing. Mm-hmm. So we have a certified organic produce farm, and this farmer really dove into sending regular email newsletters and order reminders. Another thing that he did was he organized his customers into 3 groups. So he had loyal customers, new customers, and then absent customers, or customers that maybe haven't bought from his farm. And he leveraged the Barn to Door and MailChimp customer journeys feature, which allowed him to send very targeted information to those different customer groups. So for example, if you're sending a message to a loyal customer, it can be something like, thank you for your loyalty to the farm. Here's 10% off, to show our gratitude for how loyal you are. If it's an email to a new customer, it could be maybe a promo for your first order.
Yeah.
I like to see those come into my inbox. And then for absent customers, it's, hey, we've missed you. Like, we've noticed you haven't been, at our farm. Here's what's new. Here's what's currently available in our store. And you could even throw in a promo there to kind of entice them to come back to you. And so this farmer did those 3 things. And from that, he generated a 35% lift in total sales from one email.
Wow, that is insane.
It was awesome to see. And so he was already using regular emails and engaging his customers through newsletters consistently, but by really hyper targeting information based on which stage the customer was at, to get a 35% lift in sales from a single email, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it really hits home that point of relevancy that we were talking about earlier. Being able to target the relevancy of the email content or promo to that person that's getting it can go a really long way, as we see here.
And another thing he was able to do with those absent customers, he was able to re-engage them. I know more than a handful of them signed up for a subscription, so he was able to kind of turn absent customers into those loyal, committed buyers, which we love to see at Barn to Door.
Awesome. If a farmer is looking at these tips, they're going to start implementing. What are some of the other email best practices that they should be keeping in mind as they're kind of revamping or really diving into email marketing?
Yeah, the first is to measure your results. I mean, if you don't know how things are performing, you can't change things. So it really helps you make informed decisions for the future when you're measuring how well your emails are performing. So if you're getting those open rates and click rates that you like to see and conversions in your farm store. The second is to just track what works. So it's really important, like I said, to know what works and what doesn't. So if you know that your subject lines, like you got those puns on point, like you keep hitting them and they keep, driving open rates, like keep doing it. If you notice that maybe you're doing too many, like FOMO or urgency, maybe back off on that and try something different, like a question. It's really good to see and to be able to either manually track in a spreadsheet or use a tool like MailChimp to help you see the things that are performing well. The last thing is just to iterate and try new things.
Always.
You know that we're always doing that here at Barn to Door. So just always look to push the envelope and try something new. Think outside the box and outside your normal realm, because you'll be surprised on what other things people respond to.
And the great thing about email is that you're reaching so many people, and it really is a pretty low time commitment for the potential reach of something. So if you do hit the bullseye with something new and creative that you're doing, there can be a huge payoff. And if you don't, it's not that big of a lost time or investment.
Exactly. And a quote I'm just going to pull here from Tom Bennett. He said when we were in Kentucky with him, sending emails from my farm was like taking gold to an ATM. Yeah. I love that quote. It goes to show how important email is to drive sales for farm businesses.
Awesome. Well, let's recap these 5 tips that we have here. Rachel, do you want to run through them really quick?
Yeah, so a concise subject line is really important, and then backing that up with your preview text to just complete your message that's going to be included in your email. Drafting email content that incorporates the 3 E's is very short and consumable and also concise, that drives the call to action, that next step you want them to take, and then just determining the right time to send your emails.
Well, Rachel, thank you so much for joining us for this and kind of walking us through these 5 tips for email marketing, and just a really great platform to grow from with an email marketing strategy.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. And if you're looking to dive into email marketing even more, as we said, there's tons of great resources on barntodoor.com/resources. Definitely check out A Farmer's Guide to Grow Revenue with Email Marketing. And that's an ebook that we have available on Barn to Door. You can also join a live chat session with a farmer who uses these type of tactics every week to grow their audience and increase their sales. And you can do that through our Connect program, where you can find more information on that at barntodoor.com/connect. Thanks so much for joining us, and good luck with your email newsletter.